What's up, Steve? What's up, Michaela? So first of all, thank you for sending over those videos. I'm more than happy to help. I think Steve has done a really good job about creating some good building blocks for your swing. But I think there's maybe some helpful information I can provide to make the game a little bit easier for you, so that we're not maybe struggling with some of the things that are normal when you're starting off golf, like missing the ball. That's totally normal. I think there's definitely an order of operations in terms of what is important to address first. So we'll probably start off with setup from both a face-on view and down the line, and then we'll get into kind of how we can get our total body, like our entire body, moving to clean up a little bit of the accessory movement. I think one thing I definitely noticed, like I said, firstly was setup, but then the other thing was there's just a lot of kind of moving components, which is pretty common just because the golf swing is pretty unnatural once you're starting off. So ideally we want to kind of make it as simple as possible and give you some good feels to get working in the correct direction. I think for the most part we'll try to just touch on a few small things like that to begin with until you're comfortable with that, and then maybe once we see some progress down the road we can get into some other maybe more difficult topics like maybe arm structure and some other stuff. But for the most part, let's just dive into setup. So one thing I've noticed a little bit off rip, we stand pretty far off the ball with our feet a little staggered. And then from here you get a good turn actually, but we get a lot of our whole body and our head is moving in the turn, and then our arms kind of break down, and then we're stuck kind of in the middle and not getting to the lead side. None of that's important. That's just kind of giving you a preface for what's going on. But to start off with setup, so if I stand up, feet are about shoulder width apart for most clubs other than maybe your woods and your driver. But again, that's something we can touch on a little bit later. I just want to give you a baseline for how to start off. So feet are shoulder width apart. Typically this kind of setup drill is done best against a wall. But if you have Steve on the range with you, that also actually I think works a little bit better. So we'll stand up straight, we'll get our fist, we'll ball it up, and then you'll just kind of put that on the back of your butt, not too low or not too high. And then you'll kind of shimmy back until your fist just touches the wall or just touches Steve if he's standing behind you. I don't want you to back up far enough to where your fist is actually pressed into your butt. Just kind of they're both barely touching until, okay, now I'm touching Steve, pause, and now my fist is against my butt. From here I can remove this, and then I'm gonna bend my hips back about a fist width until you make contact with either Steve or the wall. So my hips will come back, and you can kind of notice as my hips come back, my shoulders kind of move at the same rate forward. So I'm about a fist width back. Okay, and then now I can get some bend in my knees. And then if I was holding my club and I was doing this, fist width back, grip my club, bend in my knees, and now my club head is still pretty much off the ground. So I'm gonna feel like my upper back and my arms are just relaxing down. And then now from here, I should feel about 50-50 weight in both of my feet from left to right. And then I should also feel like the majority of my pressure or my weight is centered into the balls of my feet. If I'm too far on my heels or too far on my toes, you can start to mess with a little bit, if I'm too far on my toes, okay, maybe I get my butt a little bit further back, or I can bend my knees a little bit more to get the weight more centered backwards. Just kind of play around with it, bit by bit to see, what it takes to get the pressure 50-50 and in the balls of our feet. I want both my feet pretty much on the same line. Everything, my feet, my hips, and my shoulders should all be parallel down my target line. Then from there, I can kind of just get up to the ball. A good kind of way to notice if you are too far away from the ball or too close to the ball is just a pretty quick, I don't want to call it a drill, but a little station here, where if I set up and I'm too far from the ball, if I let go of my trail hand but keep holding on with my left hand, you'll see my arm drops down, and you can see my hand falls in between the grip and my hips. So I'd have to reach out for it. So if I relax, okay, I'm a little bit too far, so now let me scoot forward until I can grip it without having to reach. If I'm too close, if I let go, Now my hand kind of drops in front of the grip. Okay, I'm too close, so now I can back up until it's like neutral again. Weight 50-50 in the center of our, in the balls of our feet. And as you see more videos, I can do some line work. So long as the video is like right down your toe line. That's more of a comment for Steve. But in a perfect situation when my setup is correct, if I drew a line from like the back of my armpits, it should be 3 points down this line. So a line down from the back of my armpit, the tip of my kneecap, and then the balls of my feet should all be in one line. And then if I can do that while making sure my pressure is in the correct parts of my feet, that's a really solid setup. And that sets us up for a lot of success later on in the swing. If my setup starts to get weird, all of a sudden I have to start doing extra in the swing, which we want to kind of avoid and clean up quicker. With a lot of players, they try to work on the wrong thing first almost. We want to make sure setup is always dialed. It's going to be something you're going to have to continue to work on. But that's why I like the drill where you get up against the wall or get up against like a partner, and then you can always come back to that to make sure setup is looking good. Okay, so that's done. That should only take a few minutes. And then obviously now with those checkpoints in mind, Steve is more than welcome or more than able to make sure you're either in alignment or need to adjust a little bit based on what we said right there. A quick note, from a face-on view with this same setup, I got a fist width back, I bend my knees, and then I can relax down. Okay, now if the ball's kind of in the middle of my stance, I should see the butt end of the grip kind of, if you were to wear jeans, like the butt end of my grip should be just left of my zipper on my pants. I don't want it too far back or way too far forward. Your grip actually looks pretty good, so I don't really want to make any comments on that. But that's just a little bit extra tidbit for that. The next thing we'll talk about is just kind of getting our body to rotate in a more golf-friendly fashion almost. The ball is not gonna move when we're swinging, obviously. Our body does most of the movements. And with that, I want to try to limit as many extra movements as possible. So in a perfect situation, my swing is super simple. I can just rotate through and rotate through. I think one of the things I noticed with your swing, if I look from the face-on view, you start to make your turn and then everything moves off it a little bit. I'll post a little video with some line work so that you kind of also have some like indicators into when things are getting askew. But we're getting turned back and our head and our upper body is kind of following our arms back, and we're getting stuck on this trail side. So it makes it really hard for you to get all the way back forward and then turn through, which is kind of why we're missing the ball. After this portion, we'll get into a little bit of like a game or like a drill for contact, but to alleviate this and make it simple. So the first drill I have you do to kind of get into the swing of things with proper body rotation in the backswing and in the downswing, we'll just take our club, we'll put the grip end pointing kind of down the target line. And if I just stand straight up and turn my body, turn my shoulders 90 degrees without swaying one way or the other, this essentially is my entire golf backswing. The only difference is in the swing, I'm actually in that good, posture. So if I did the same thing, but taking my good posture to begin with, and I just turn my shoulders 90 degrees, I'm in a really good position for a backswing. I'm not getting too far off it. Again, the ball's kind of just in the middle, so if I move all the way right here, it's gonna be really hard for me to get all the way back. That works for some people, but typically that lateral shift for people who do it is not as severe. But again, so you can try it like this, where you just turn straight, and then we can get into our golf posture, or we can take our golf posture and then just turn. So I'll give a better explanation when I do the line work video, but essentially, if I were to draw the same lines on myself, where I had a line on each side of my hips and each side of my head, when I make a good turn and I turn back, there should be about a golf ball width of space created by the top of my backswing compared to that line we originally drew. So if the line's right here I'll turn, and I have about a golf ball width of space. I don't want my hips or my body to cover that line up that we drew. So if I have the line right here and I get too stacked on my trail side, I'm covering that line. The same thing goes with the head. So if I drew a line on each side of my head, I don't want to break through that wall, break through that line. I want to keep that centered as well. So for you, I want you to feel more like, if anything, we're keeping a little bit more centered when we're turning, or you can feel like your right pocket turns kind of back towards our left heel. My butt turns back towards my left heel. My head stays centered. And then from here, we've made a really good turn. The next move is we can shift a little bit forward, and then without like moving my body in a crazy way, my hips and my shoulders, or my upper body, my lower body, they're staying pretty much stacked. So if I move forward now, they're staying stacked, and then I can just make that same turn to now where the club head is kind of pointed towards the ball. So if I were to do that standing up, I'll make a good turn, I can shift a little forward, and then I can turn again. And now you can see, if I have my club in my hand, that's pretty similar to like a pro golfer's finish, because they do really well about having a good turn, and then they can shift their pressure forward, and then they can rotate through and finish everything on the lead side. Once we start working this into, pretty much everything I've told you doesn't require a ball. So now once you start practicing and getting into making these changes on the range and then on the course, firstly, had the practice, we'll take a couple swings without the ball, where I'm just really trying to feel like when I make my, first of all, I have my good setup. Next thing, I make my good centered turn. So my head isn't moving back, my hips aren't moving back, and everything's, I don't want everything stacked over on my right leg. So everything's staying centered. You can think about your right butt going back to your left heel, or your right pocket going back, staying centered. So I made a good turn, and then now you can feel a little bit of a shift, and then you can turn through. This should make it a lot easier to make consistent contact with the ball. And the best way to implement anything in your swing is by doing it slowly. So Steve will help you out, obviously, but we want to kind of just do some half swings or some slower swings. If you can do it slow, you will inevitably do it fast at some point. It's just about working towards that. So we take our good setup, bend the knees, relax down. Okay, all I'm focused about in my practice is making a nice centered turn, and then I can shift a little bit, and then I can just turn through. And when I finish my swing, I should feel like 90% of my weight on my lead side. So we'll take a little one, get set up, relaxed. Okay, I'm gonna make a good centered turn. I'm gonna shift my weight, and then finish on my left side. So, turn. And then as you start to progress with that, we can ramp up the speed, you can ramp up the length of the swing. This will lead to obviously better contact down the road. Again, this is just a little bit of a video showing some of the line work from the face-on view. Honestly, I don't think there's much of a need to show the down the line, just because I feel like the majority of the things we talked about can be addressed here. I might pull up another video actually just to show some proper setup cues, but for here, I just have some lines drawn on both sides of your hips, and then obviously on both sides of your head. It's not perfect, but it's all right. Ball position doesn't look that bad, and like grip looks good. Like angle of the shaft looks good. It's kind of just past your zipper, which I don't mind. And then, like we talked about with our turn drill, we can start to see, like right here, actually pretty solid. You have maybe a little bit less than a golf ball space on that trail side. But then we can see once we get kind of past halfway there, now our hips and like our upper body a little bit is starting to cross over that line. So now, if I had to guess, you'd have a lot of pressure built up on this trail side, which makes it really hard for us to get back to the middle. But also we can see up top here, your head is like right in the middle of that line. So you've essentially moved maybe a golf ball or two with your lower body to back away from the target. But then you've moved about a half a head worth of space back as well. So now we can see as we start to get down in our swing,
we kind of missed the ball, which is okay. And then only after the swing is done, everything's over here on the lead side. Overall, honestly, not really that bad in the downswing, but yeah, it's really just a lot of getting off, and you're getting over these lines, and so it's really hard to get back on it. I'll pull up another video here. My swing is not a good example for this. Fuck it. Okay, well, I'm sorry, but this is what we'll have to use. This is far from ideal, so I apologize in advance, but fuck, sorry. So I'm drawing roughly the same lines as I get my video back. So you can see I do shift a little bit, which is fine, because by the top of my swing, you can see my head is still pretty much centered. Yeah, I could do a little bit better, obviously, but... And then I have about a golf ball width of space right here between this line we drew. Oh, fuck. The line we drew and, like, my hip, the side of my hip. From here, you can see I get that weight shift, so I'm not just staying back on my feet. And then all my weight is pretty much on my lead side by impact. And then I can just rotate through, and I'm here. So, damn, actually, what the fuck? I'm wearing the same shit I'm wearing now. I just noticed that shit. Anyways. In a perfect situation, which is not what we're seeing here, but if I drew a line from, like, the side of my ankle up, by the time I get to impact, that's actually not that bad. My ankle, my knee, hopefully my hands, my hips, and then my shoulders should all be in one line there. If this, like, if your hips, shoulders, knees, like pretty much the whole, like, left side of your body, if that was more over here, that means we didn't get our weight forward enough. If it was too far forward, then obviously we're going the opposite way. Our head will be a little bit forward too, so I moved about a half a head forward, which is totally chill. This actually wasn't as bad as I thought, but just kind of shows you maybe something to compare, hopefully, in maybe a positive way. But this kind of goes in line with kind of what we were talking about, and hopefully makes it make more sense. And now you can start to pinpoint it when you're watching your own videos. So hopefully that helps. So, sorry to show my fucking swing again, but just to show you what we're looking for in the down the line swing, or down, not swing, but just setup. Some of this will be probably TMI, but if I draw that line like I spoke about in the video, from the back of my armpits down at about 90 degrees, you can kind of see the back of my armpits. I can only see if I can move this line back a little bit. Sorry. The back of my armpits, if I draw the line down, it's cutting through the tip of my kneecaps and then going right down, probably, like, you know, towards the bottom of my laces, which is the balls of my feet. So that shows us we're in proper alignment, so I should feel like the weight is mainly centered around the balls of my feet, and it's about 50-50. Oh, fuck. God damn it. The only other thing I will do on my end, you don't have to really worry about this, but if I draw like a spine angle line, I put it kind of at the back of my butt, and then kind of follow my back, and the line straight down. So ideally, I want to look for about 150 to 155 degrees of tilt. Again, I wouldn't really worry about that. But over here, if we look at my hands, you can see they're pretty much just dropped. Oh, fucking wrong. God, I'm sorry. Wrong thing. If I draw a line down from my shoulders, my hands are pretty much just sitting under it. So before, for your swing, your hands were kind of more, or your arms were more extended out this way. If I was too close, my arms would be in this way. You can just do that let go of the club test, and you can see that you're not too far or not too close. Perfect video for, like, taking line work or doing line work or anything for me to use is if, like, the center of your camera is pretty much going straight down your toe line. If you were, like, way over here, it's kind of hard to analyze, or vice versa, because everything might look off. But this is, like, technically neutral, so that I can kind of better dictate what is actually right and what needs some help.
Okay, so hopefully this isn't an overload of information, but if it is, that's okay. That's why I like to do it in the video format, so that you can go back and kind of break it up into digestible bits, so that it's overall easier for you to make the changes over time. It's going to be a long process to get to whatever goals you may have in place, and that's totally cool. Everybody is consistently working on their game, so it's really not that big of a deal. The most underrated portion of golf, I think, is the skill aspect of it. I think a lot of people heavily focus on technique, which is adequate, obviously, to a certain degree, but there's a level of skill required to be an efficient golfer, for sure. And the main thing I mean by skill is being able to understand where you're hitting the ball on the club face and how to change that, right? If I'm having a day where I'm missing the ball, but I feel like I'm doing everything right, you know, when I'm on the golf course, I want to think as little about technique as possible, because it's going to really mess up what's going on for the day, and you can't focus on just playing the game. Skill and the ability to understand how to get your contact correct again is really, really important, and I think will serve you really well moving forward. So this game I got from my coach is just called Around the World. We'll try a variation with it that's a little bit more beginner friendly, I think, first of all. So we'll set up, usually not a ball, but like we can set up like a tee or something, like a piece of trash or whatever, just put it on the ground. We'll take our good setup, we'll set up to it. And the first one I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set up normal on this spec, whatever it is, and I want to swing but miss the ball or the spec. Don't do it with the ball, do it with some, like a tee or a bottle cap or something. I'm gonna miss this, the ball. It's a ball for my fucking example, but when you do a tee or something. I'm gonna miss this tee on the inside of it. So if I made a perfect swing, obviously I'd hit it. But on this one, I want you to feel like you have to bring your hands in order to miss this tee. So first round, I'll take a swing, and I'll miss on the inside. So ideally, you'll make a little bit of contact with the ground, miss the ball, miss the tee. Okay, the next one, I'm gonna set up again, but now this time I wanna miss it on the outside of the tee. So I'll take my swing, miss it on the outside. Okay, cool. Now on this next one, let me set up normally, and let me try to just barely clip the top of it. So we'll see how this goes. Yeah, so just top it, or get, barely clip the top of it. Okay, and if you're on a turf or on a mat, this is a little bit easier. I wouldn't recommend this the chunky shot off grass, but if you're on a mat, okay, I'll set up again normally, and I'm gonna see if I can hit behind the ball, behind the tee. That was pretty thick. And then finally, now I'll set up again normally on the tee, and I want to be able to hit it perfectly. So I'll hit it. Perfect. So if you can successfully go through that around the world, you now know the feel you need to implement if you see a pattern in your strike. It can be difficult at first if you're not aware, but the best thing to do, in my opinion, is get like Dr. Scholl's foot spray from like Target or CVS or something, and you spray your club face so that you can see where you're making contact with the ball. But let's say we have a day where you're swinging and you're missing the ball, and no matter what you do, you can't hit the ball. Okay, let me think back to my drill game. Okay, so instead of just making my normal swing, I'm gonna feel like I'm gonna hit the ground before I get to the ball. So if I'm missing the ball every swing, okay, let me feel like I'm at least gonna hit a lot of the ground before that. Okay, and it kind of neutrals things out. Now you have awareness of, first of all, what is the issue? Okay, now second of all, I know I'm capable of fixing the issue without having to get so technical. I'm just thinking about, can I make something happen? Can I get lower to the ground in this swing? If I'm shanking a bunch, so I'm getting super close on the heel when I make contact, okay, in my game, I would just try to miss it on the inside. So let me try to feel like I'm going to miss it on the inside and catch it a little bit more on the toe. So instead of shanking it, now you get your strike more centered again. Okay, well, my fucking ball's now. And vice versa, if you're catching it heavy on the toe or something. Okay, now I can just feel like I'm going to miss it on the outside of the spec. If I'm catching it heavy, okay, now I'm going to feel like I'm just trying to clip the top of the ball and not get any grass. This is a skill that you can control. So that might be something to work on little bits at a time, just so that you're starting to get a better understanding. Because at its simplest form, if I am missing the golf ball, that just means my club is not getting down enough to it, right? If I'm hitting too much of the ground before the golf ball, okay, that means my club is just getting too far down. Let me feel like I'm going to get up on it. If I'm hitting it too much on the toe, my club is just getting too far this way. Okay, so let me feel like I'm going to get this way. And vice versa. It's all the same. It's so much more simple than people try to make it sound. But if you can control this, all of a sudden now when things get wonky on the course, you can immediately, okay, before I even hit this ball, I'm going to find a piece of grass or a dead piece of, a grass or a chunk of dirt or something. And let's say I'm struggling with missing it and catching it on the heel. Okay, so I'm going to feel like this one, I'm going to catch it a little heavy on the toe. So you can start to mix and match them to better cater to what you're going through for the day. That was my warm-up swing. Okay, now let me figure out where I want to hit this. Let me take my good setup. Not really thinking about much other than trying to recreate that same feel, and it neutralizes everything out. I think this is a really good foundation for you. And like I said, as time goes on and you start to get more comfortable with these things, we can start to introduce a little bit more complexities in the swing that will make your game even better. And eventually, obviously, look at maybe chipping and putting and some other stuff. But as a baseline, I think this is a great start, and I think will provide hopefully a simple outlook on it, and also just make it more digestible and just more fun. Honestly, it can't be very fun if you're not hitting the ball the way you want to all the time, or if you're struggling even making contact with it. And it sucks getting frustrated. So hopefully all of this helps. I think, like I said, there's a correct way of going through it. I think setup is number one. Setup is always king. You have a good grip, so don't even worry about that. Setup, making a good turn. Now that I've made a good turn in my backswing, I can shift forward a little bit and then make that same turn. It's just like I did in the backswing, it's the same thing on the other side. It's the same exact thing. I'm just turning 90, shift, turn 90, and then I can feel like all my weight's on my lead side. I can almost like lift up my trail foot. Okay, that's going great. I can do it slow. I can do it a little bit faster. Now we implemented the skill base into it. So let's say all the technique stuff is lining up, but I still can't hit the ball how I want to. You know how to fix that, I want to give you the tools necessary for you to fix these things on your own with Steve, because if I just told you what to do without explaining why it's important, eventually, you'll come at a blockage, which is fine. It's never an issue to rely on somebody else for extra assistance, but knowledge is power, but applied wisdom is even better. So I think I'm trying my best to hopefully assist you as I can, but let me know your thoughts. Again, I'll include a little line work video just so you can see. I know this is a little bit long, but Steve can watch it and he can just enunciate what I was talking on. But yeah, good luck. Keep me updated. Please keep me updated. Send me videos. I love seeing the progress. And let me know if there's something that doesn't quite make sense, and then I can reevaluate how I spoke on it and then try to provide a better explanation for you. But good luck, have fun, and don't take it too serious.